little handout here for you guys just to take a look at, I guess, the Ag Inspector program. Oh, I have one more here. I guess since last year, we took over the responsibilities of the County Ag Inspector program, I guess better known in the county. I don't know if it's better, but the weed inspector. And we put together just a little synopsis of what we've done since last year, how 2012 program differed between 2013, now that we've had a year under our belt. Typically, we, at each board meeting, Frank, who attends, we give a little spiel on what's going on with our office and how the Ag Inspector program is going. And we just thought it was time that we would come to you guys to give a little presentation, at least see what we're doing with the funds you gave us, and also how the program is going in Clay County. Last year's program was pretty much brand new to us, so we had met early with Brian and the previous County Ag Inspector, Ken Severson, and also Highway Department Engineer Dave Overbo. Kind of give what's to be expected of us, I guess, is what we were looking for. This past year, we started a little bit earlier and had met with Dave and our county selected sprayer, a guy out of Ulen, Minnesota, and went through our prioritizing our county roads that we wanted to highlight. And working with the past sprayer, he knew a lot of the roads that there were some previous problems, so those are ones that we wanted to hit. And we've been kind of spraying right up until about the middle of October this year, primarily because there are thistles out there and leafy spurge continues to be a problem. There is a common tansy, which is one that's moving into the area, as well as wild parsnip. So there's odd things that never really knew before what they looked like, but are finding out that there are problems in the other parts of the state. Okay, Wayne?
Kevin, toward the bottom it says three of you attended a 3-day annual conference in Red Wing.
Yep.
And can you just take a minute or two to fill us in on that, how that went?
Yeah, well, up in
I
the
don't know if were you one of them who were there?
Excuse me?
Were you one of them who was
yes.
there? Okay.
Yep, Craig, Lynn, and myself. And it was kind of, we've taken it on as a office project to all three of the guys there, like I say, Craig Halverson, Lynn Foss, and myself. A lot of the field work we take care of, going out, viewing complaints that we get, concerns that are out there, and basically if we find problems out there, we want to get on top of them right away. The Ag Inspector program has a statewide association, and that's the one we attended this past year in Red Wing, Minnesota. In 2012, the first one that we attended was in Hibbing, Minnesota. And there are basically lots of county ag inspectors throughout the state show up and talk about problems that they're seeing, different types of weeds that they see coming in. We went on a tour of both areas, and definitely it's a lot different from eastern Minnesota than what we are here in southeastern Minnesota, that Red Wing area. Very beautiful country, but they have a lot of problems with this what's called wild parsnip. And that's one that we are seeing in a few spots in Clay County popping up that are, one, the highway departments and county or Minnesota Department of Transportation are having some real concerns with, because the vegetation, if you mow it, it gives off a sap that if you get it on your skin can actually cause some blistering, and it's very photosensitive, I guess, so you can break out in blistering. So a lot of them don't like to mow that, primarily because you got your maintenance crew that are working underneath these mower decks, and you start getting problems with your employees. So that's one that we see down in the southeastern part of the state that's really popping up. Common tansy is one that over in the Hibbing area is just prolific. It's all over the place, and I guess as far as control, I think it's beyond control. I think they're just trying to maintain, is what I saw, is that the outer edges of St. Louis County where we were at, they're just trying to keep it from spreading. It's just all over up in those communities. So we do see a few patches of those coming into the county as well. Trying to stay on top of that is what one of our concerns that we're trying to do. And if you went along on our tour this year, I know Frank was able to attend, and I know Brian was able to attend. This past summer, we decided as an office, some of these smaller patches that we're seeing out and around the county, that rather than going back to the office giving the township official or a county or our sprayer, rather than having them come out and go touch a small area, maybe a small patch about the size of your table here. We decided that we thought it was a good idea to purchase a sprayer ourselves, a little backpack sprayer, and some chemical, and talking with the Minnesota Department of Ag, as long as we were spraying on public property, we weren't charging a fee, and we weren't spraying restricted use chemicals, that we could take that project on as far as try to nip something in the bud.
Okay, one more quick question.
Yeah.
Wild parsnip, tansy, do these take different chemicals?
The chemical that we have is something called Perspective, and this is a chemical that will take all those as well. So we're seeing spotted knapweed is another one that is uncommon to us, but there are patches popping up. Thistles are something that, I think everybody knows what that is. Leafy spurge is something that has been around for many, many years, and we're seeing it creeping into the western half of the county. It seems like it's more prolific out in the gravel pit areas. I think they get some of the seeds get into gravel, and as trucks haul down the roads, that they drop that off, and you see it along highways and stuff like that. Like I say, the common tansy, some of those are just getting to be more problematic in the area.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John?
Well, I think it's great that you took it on yourself to do that spot spraying, because sometimes just waiting for somebody else can multiply it very quickly. And
That's what we thought too. And we brought it to our board, and our board thought, do something, be a little more proactive, and get on the stick and take care of those. So I guess on our tour, and I was going to allude to that a little earlier, we had a patch out in Eglin Township that we had gone out and had sprayed prior to our tour, and like I say, one of the town board members had alerted us to it, and we went out and took care of it, and it looks like the stuff that we're using did the trick on it. So,
it's interesting to me. I mean, I was in crop judging when I was in high school, and we memorized all the different categories of weeds and plants and so on. These weren't even there at that time. So have they come in from other countries?
That's what I think a lot of them. Some of these things are sold as ornamental plants and stuff like that, whereas they're down in this Red Wing area. Back to Wayne's question, there's something called Japanese barberry. A lot of the nurseries sell that as an ornamental. It has a colorful fall foliage, but that is a mean one. They're finding that it'll overtake an area if it gets started. It pretty much will knock out anything native, and is just a monoculture that it'll create. And it's one where it has little thorns on it, so even it gets to be such a briar that the deer don't even like to go through it. So maintaining that is really a tough one. And you get down the Red Wing country, and like I said, I've never really been down that part of the state very much, but they've got some slopes, I would guess they're about almost 40 degrees the way it looks. To go out and try to spray some of that stuff, you almost have to walk it with a backpack. Huge job. Like I say, it's a problem that they don't exactly know how they're going to be handling it. We did visit a farm, a woman down there that runs 400 goats, and she is leasing out to different individuals 20 goats at a time, and to try to clean up some of this stuff. And apparently they're more of a browser than a grazer, so they would rather focus on some of these noxious weed things, supposedly. So that's one way that they're combating these. I don't see us getting into a herdsman type program.
Craig's got some goats on this
Exactly.
farm, yeah.
He would be good go with a goat herder. Yeah, he would.
Well, just like the program that you're doing for us with with what's Craig is doing.
Feedlot officer.
Yeah, the feedlot officer. We're really happy to see you guys work on this. And I guess my concern, now this is your second year going into this.
Yes.
My question would be, do you have any concerns with your ability to administer the program? Do you have any concerns in that regard?
Not as of yet, and I know we have it as a quarter-time position, is what you guys had allotted us. As of right now, I think the more we get into it, we are incorporating it right along with our SWCD duties. I mean, we're out and about in the county so much. A lot of times, if we got a call from somebody that and it seems like people have no problem giving us a call that so-and-so's got weeds on their property. If we can do that as a sideline with our other regular general work. It seems to be working out fine. At this stage of the game, I don't see it being, a real burden on us. Definitely, it makes us watch the roads a lot more than what we used to, as far as maybe I should watch the ditches more so, because the more you're out and about, the more you're seeing these problem sites. And like I say, people don't have a problem bringing it to our attention. We've asked the town board members to alert us to what's going on out there, and if there is a problem in a township area, we are asking each town board member to go along with us, because each town board member, as well as each mayor of each community, is a weed inspector or ag inspector per state statute. I think that's kind of news to a lot of them, and a lot of the townships, some will spray everything, regardless of weeds. Some don't do anything. So, trying to get them to handle their responsibilities is something, I guess, that we will continue to stress. And each fall and spring, the county Association of Township Officers meeting, we're on the agenda. Strictly in the past, we've been mostly talking about projects and stuff that the SWCD can work with the townships. But now that we're with the ag inspector, we always want to bring this into our little speech or spiel with them. So we're going to ask them, and I don't know how well it will go over, but we're going to ask them to, maybe they should take a look at purchasing a little backpack sprayer or something like that, and take some of those responsibilities on themselves. We have a contact over in Bovey, Minnesota, over near Hibbing, that spoke at our association township officers meeting last spring, and he gave a talk on chemicals, and he has a state contract that he works with. We purchased our backpack sprayer and chemical. We split the cost with you guys and the highway department, and we can get the chemical at a under a state contract rate. Townships can do the same. So I guess we'll put the bug in their ear next Monday, because we're on the agenda again. But if there's something that could be snipped in the bud, so.
Oh, sure.
I don't know that we can ever totally eradicate the things that are out there, like the leafy spurge and those things.
Exactly.
But when, for example, when we increased your spring budget, was that helpful in being able to at least control to some degree what we have going on, so that it can't get any worse?
Well,
and possibly
definitely last spring, a year ago in 2012, and that was our first year with it. We had asked the sprayer outfit. We had $10,000 budget, and we'd asked him to use $7,000 to $8,000 in the spring, so we could hold back a couple thousand for the fall. And he had told us originally that for $25,000 a year, he estimated that he could do the whole county. Well, we didn't have that much to work with, so we basically went back to the sites that he had experienced, knowing that there was problems in the area, and then if we saw some along the way, just to bring those to his attention. Well, when the first bill came in March, or in May rather, he was over $10,000, $10,400 some odd dollars. So we had already used our allotment for the year. So basically, all we had to go with then after that was either the farmers out there might touch up some of those areas, that just because they don't want it spreading into the fields, or we're looking at mowing, because that's primarily what the township has. Definitely this year, we lived and learned a little bit. Hopefully, we learned a little bit. Definitely, we saw the need to stress to hold back some of those funds, and you guys came forward, I guess, working with Frank a little bit, to pump that budget up a little bit. Definitely, I see areas that we had got to before that we were able to get to this year. And I think if we can either maintain, I think if it's there, we'll use it. I know that. It definitely is something that, not everything is getting covered, but yeah, Wayne.
John?
Two questions, I guess. One is, what did we do this year? We leave it at $14,000 for this coming year? Do you remember?
Mr. Chair, I think that's what we did, or did we add a little more? I was, as we were talking about this, I was trying to think back as to the amount, and I know we didn't reduce it at all anyway, that's for sure.
No, we were, just chime in on that. We were told $14,000, and if we needed more, we could come back to
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, I think that's what
I think
highway.
it's got to be that way too, because if you have something major out there, we want to control it before it gets out of hand. And
And a few of these items came to our attention kind of after the fact. If that Crestwood area there, all those now are county property, which I guess we didn't take into account before. And that area, if you know anything, the first thing that'll come in after getting, soil disturbed, weeds. And
Yeah.
that definitely was a weedy mess out there. So we had Dave Overbo's group go out and mow that, and then a short time after the regrowth, we had our sprayer go out and mow that areas. And then I was unaware also there are a few sites around Sabin that were bought out, and I guess, a long ways away from the river, but definitely became problem areas after they became county property. We got a call from a couple of guys that, those areas are full of weeds. So we hit those as well. So like I say, it's just to keep on top of those. Now, those spraying dollars came out of planning and zoning, apparently, so, which I was unaware of. But like I say, we're living and learning as we go.
John, another question?
Yeah, the other question was, I think when we assigned these duties to the Soil Conservation District, we were concerned about, and it's the same way with the feedlot thing, I suppose, the concern about, your organization primarily was education and helping people with, encouraging them to do their programs, and this is regulatory. Has that worked okay? I mean, it sounds to me you haven't found any particular problems with it.
I think, fitting it into our office, we know a lot of the landowners out there prior to taking on this program. And what we found primarily, if you go out and talk to these guys first, rather than get to be tough on them, they understand. If you go out there and bring them along to the site, you can point out that this is tansy. This is, some of those things are just like we were saying, basically things that were brand new to us as well. And if you go out there and meet with these landowners, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be taking, getting the job done, doing something. So
You've turned it into an educational process anyway.
well, it's an education process for us as well, but definitely, like I say, most of these guys we know anyway.
Right.
And it seems, and I go to town board meetings. Those people have been very good to go out there, and if they want, some guys would just as soon contact that landowner on their own because they know those individuals. If they want us to do that, we'll let them know that we were out there along with a town board member if the landowner wasn't along. But yeah, like I say, it's much easier to come in rather than being heavy-handed, just to work with the guys. And like I say, 9 times out of 10, we haven't run into that that 10% person people yet. I'm sure time goes on, but if we can trying to work with people rather than trying to force something down on them, I think that's worked out well with us. So.
Thank you.
Kevin, anybody have anything further for Kevin?
Thank you for your work, Kevin.
Thank you for your update, and from what you've said, I think you'll probably be coming back down the line for a little bit more than $14,000, and hopefully we'll be able to give it to you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. We enjoy working with you guys as always, so thanks again.
You bet, Kevin. And now, Nancy Kornelka. Approval of tax forfeit property list and sale. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are things on floor 2?
Wonderful.
Good.
I have a list of the tax forfeit properties I want you to approve for our forfeit sale this year. One of the properties I would like to withhold at this point, that's the one that's in Moorhead Township. I recently received a call from the Moorhead Township supervisor saying they might be interested in the property to use as maybe a town hall. Not exactly sure at this point. I also did find out that the legal description we have been using for that property is incorrect. So I have to go back and fix it anyway.
Which one is that?
The one that starts with the 21.
Got it.
That's the one we toured.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of them, second to the bottom, the Hitterdall City one was one that we had last year and it didn't sell. I know there's neighbors that are interested in buying it and tearing it down, which would be the best use of that property. We reassessed that one to make it a little bit more affordable for them, and we want it gone. The bottom property is an Oakport Township property in Brentwood that before was in the floodplain, but now that the dike is built, the DNR has gone through the process of it's reassessed and recertified and all that stuff, so that one will be up for sale too.
Okay, gentlemen, your wishes.
I'll make a motion that you go ahead and sell it,
Leaving out the one.
leaving out the
One from Ward Township.
Moore Township one, yes.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Got it?
Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. Hey, does she need to be here for that agenda edition?
The what?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Thanks.
Thank you. And now Clay County's main lady, Kathy McKay, requests to hire one full-time equivalent health educator position. And Gina.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I brought Gina along as part of this project that she manages. We have continuation of our statewide health improvement grant, as well as our community transformation grant and a few others that we've listed. And so there's an additional need for a staff health educator under these programs. The grants fund that position completely. There's no additional county dollars that are necessary. So we're requesting one FTE health educator position. The state has approved this position already, and it's been budgeted for.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen?
Are benefits covered too by this?
Yes.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Thanks for
Wow,
being here. You
thank
got
you.
it. Do it.
See you later
Okay.
at the next meeting.
Yeah. Say, are you buying lunch?
I'll buy you lunch.
Oh, yeah, I mean, so no, that's right.
9:35 item. Let's take a look at the agenda edition. Have you all had an opportunity to look at this?
Yeah.
Any comments from anybody?
I didn't read this one. If you can give me a
Sure.
second.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And you'd asked me about this just before the meeting, and for the sake of the rest of the committee, or the board, I should say, I do have the policy in front of me. Would you like me to review that for you? Okay. It says the policy that you adopted is policy regarding a waiver penalty and interest for late payments of property taxes. It is the policy of the Clay County to uphold Minnesota Statute 279.01 with respect to collecting penalty and interest for late payments of property tax. The board will not consider request to waive penalties involving tax statements which the property owner believes were not received, misdirected mail oversight, transfer of ownership of property. The Clay County Board of Commissioners will only hear requests to waive penalty and interest in the event of the property owner's serious illness / hospitalization or death, and 2, in the event of disaster, flood, fire, tornado. That was effective January 1st, 2012.
Thank you.
And that's why it even was able to get to us, because in her letter, she was hospitalized. And
Yes, yes, sir.
If you take a look at her letter, I read it as she basically forgot to pay her taxes. She says, "I just neglected to pay the October installment. I blame it on being ill. I know better."
My comment would be she's had late penalties 2 prior years, and it just seems to be a pattern as far as late penalty. The hospitalization may have had something to do with it, but I think they have to set up if she doesn't know better, she needs someone to help her out with her stuff, I guess. I would recommend not approving.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Discussion.
I think you're probably right. I think that her hospitalization could well have had something to do with it. It's not something that's very well noticed in the public sphere of things. The dates come and go pretty fast, but, so it can easily, if you're distracted by hospitalization, could be a problem. But like you say, there's been a history of it, and so maybe the taxes just have to be paid a month early rather than a few days late, and then it'll be resolved. So I'll agree with that motion.
Yeah, I've been a proponent in the past of anybody who's certainly been in a medical situation where they have not been able to pay their taxes, and I've supported them wholeheartedly in those requests. This one, and I think the other key factor here too is understanding what past practices have been. And in this one, unlike some of the other ones, this one, it appears that it's not the first time they've been late. And I think that we have to take that into consideration. So for that reason, I'll support the motion.
Further discussion? Vicki, would you call the roll on this, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the motion carries. Let's go to committee reports. Chief, how about you first today?
Okay, let's see, I had Veterans Advisory meeting last week, and everything is going well. Volunteers are still working hard, and they are actually looking for more volunteers at the Veteran Service Office, so if you know anybody who's interested, you can have them contact them. I'd be happy to hear from them. Their workload continues to increase with all the things that are going on with new military people being released. But all in all, they're doing well. And Tom was out on some medical issues, but he's back to work, I think close to being back to work full-time now. So. And then, let's see, I had a restorative justice committee meeting, and that's also going well. I think we did have some information that they did receive some significant grants again, so that really helps with that situation. It was starting to look a little bleak, but they received $300,000 over the next 2 years, and then they received an additional $82,000 from another grant that they weren't expecting. So that's good. Things are going good, and the program should continue and continue to do well. So that's it.
Thank you. John?
You know, I had no meetings last week.
John?
We had a retreat, two different retreats that I was on. One with the Basin Commission, had several meetings connected with that, and we did probably the most significant thing is we had strategic planning for the future, and we did choose a new executive director. Jeff Lewis will be the new executive director, replacing Lance Yoy at the Basin Commission. He will start the first of the year, and Lance will remain as stay with for probably the whole next year as a consultant. But Jeff will be the director. So that was good gathering, and we had good planning for the future that was well received, I think, by everybody. Then I went to the AMC Futures meeting in St. Paul Thursday and Friday, and that too was, as always, very interesting. We talked about collaboration and consolidation of projects and counties and all kinds of things. It was very informative, and looking down the road as to what kinds of things we may need to do to make changes, because I think pretty much everybody agrees that the current system is not sustainable in the long run, and we need to find ways to be more effective and more efficient in our work. One of the things that we did that was, I thought, especially interesting was the talking about public and private partnerships and collaboration for economic development. And we did hear a report from people that are working with the Mayo Mayo Clinic and Rochester and Olmsted County and things they're doing with that major program there. And I guess I understood it better now than I did before. I was concerned before when I was hearing the state working with us as to how state monies could be put into a private business like that. And it became clear that the approximately $600 million that public, between state, county, and city monies is going to go for infrastructure to help allow for the clinic to add $3.5 billion to the whole clinic there. So it's only going to be used for infrastructure that everybody has access to, but it's infrastructure that's needed for the clinic in order to expand where they're at. So it seems to me a very good investment if you can get that kind of return from private industry. And so that was an example of ways which we can look at. I've got some handouts that I would like to have copied for everybody, and especially for Kevin and Grant with the economic development. I think there might be some helpful things here that we can, some resources that could be used. Extension has some good information. The League of Cities has some very good information about economic development and partnerships. And then the Minnesota Association of Professional County Economic Developers have information that would be helpful. So I'll get have Vicki copy this and give a copy to everybody here. So I think you might find that helpful. That's all I had.
Okay. Frank, we'll get to you in a minute. Presentation of Holly Hotel Partners. Mark Box. Is Mark here? Good morning. And who is it you have with you, Mark? Mark, you can come here.
Well, we're expecting another gentleman who's downstairs wrapping up a couple of things, so.
All right.
We'll, and they're much more important than I am.
Oh.
They actually own it, so.
Do you want to wait until he gets here, Mark? Would that be, because we have a couple other things we can do before.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
That's fine.
Good, thank you. Okay, Frank.
I just at the one meeting that Grant and I attended was with the Dilworth, City of Dilworth on the police department, where we came up with a couple more options. I think the first option probably was a little bit too costly and stuff like that. And so we're just going back and forth with different options would be, and they're looking at another one, and we're coming back with some other stuff. So I don't know when our next meeting is planned, but everybody's going back to the drawing board again and seeing what give and take we can do.
Okay, thank you. On Wednesday, November 6th, Moorhead Planning Commission, general business, we granted an easement for Kovash Marine, and then there was plat consideration and rezoning for Stone Mill Estates Edition. On Thursday, November 7th, Clay County Joint Powers, general business, we had a presentation by Moorhead City Engineer Dr. Bob Zimmerman on the Diversion Authority. This was an update on the most recent plans that have come forward, and then we had an update from regarding the intergovernmental retreat, and Brian could probably speak to that too. He was at the meeting. Kevin, did you have anything to add regarding the diversion at all at this time?
And I guess
Sure.
I didn't get notice of that meeting. So I don't know what happened
The
there.
joint powers you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know when it usually is supposed to be, but I usually get something and I didn't.
All right, Brian, we'll get to you at the end of the meeting. Gentlemen, why don't we get you one more chair? You can all sit up here. Good morning, Mark, again.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you, and great to be back with you, gentlemen, and discuss this project over in Holly. We've got Bill Daggett and Dan Noreen. They represent the ownership group of the hotel project that is being proposed in Holly. So I'm going to ask them to spend a few minutes talking about the hotel and the project specifically, and then I'll get into the incentive finance side of things, and then answer any questions that you may have. So, Bill and Dan?
Well, the project we're envisioning is a 43-unit hotel there in Hawley, just on the south side of Highway 10. We've got a lot of growth going in Hawley, and we think the market, being community members, we think that it would be a great addition to the community. We've decided for the American Inn for a brand franchise after doing some research, and we done a site visit on the potential layout for the hotel. So it's actually the construction company built a very similar one not too long ago. So we're looking forward to having that in the community.
Dan, do you have anything to add to what Bill has said?
Yeah, they would expand. We've got 8 individuals that are part of the ownership group, and we're all local people that have lived there and grew up there. And it's been discussed for several years in that Hawley Highway 10 corridor, a lodging facility, and such as this. And over the years, it's always been, how can you make it work? How can you make it work? And we're taking a little bit of chance here, like people need to do, take a risk on it. But we believe in it. That it's going to be a successful project. We've got a hired and paid for business plan that supports that idea and that thought. We're pushing the season here, as you guys know, too, on construction, and just these projects take a while, as you know, too, and we wish we'd been in the ground sooner, but we're moving forward and willing to take that risk, I guess, on construction and try and get this done for the community and for the 8 investors that are involved. So,
Okay. Joe?
Access will be from the south then, right? The street on the south side?
correct.
Okay, and will there be a driveway route to the front too, or is that just everything is facing the south? How does that work for you?
Actually, and I don't think we have a picture, it'll be angled a little bit. So access into the parking lot will be from the south, but there would also be parking on the northwest corner of the lot, I guess. That's kind of how it would face.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a great project. It's probably long overdue.
Mark, anything else you would like to add?
Sure. And again, thank you for the opportunity standing in for Tim. I was delighted that he called last week and asked me to stand in for him since he is out of town. And as you know, this typically isn't in our wheelhouse as a primary sector focused agency, but we're glad to assist and talk about the project, and we're supportive of it. So this project will be a little more than $4 million project, and when it's done and the business is open, it will create approximately a dozen jobs. These gentlemen and the ownership group will be injecting about $1 million of cash equity into the program, so they've got a lot of skin in the game, and they've really stepped up, which is there to be commended for doing that. Over the course of the last several weeks, we have worked with Tim and the Clay County EDA on developing a matrix of a scoring system that board and the commission should use and consider when being approached for property tax abatements. And we worked together with Tim and spent a lot of time reviewing and talking about what other communities and other counties are using, and we've given him examples, and he's modified and adapted it to what fits Clay County, and he asked us to review what they put together, and we're supportive of what he's done. So this is actually the first project moving forward with the new scoring system, so the timing was very good in that regard. And you can see as you go through the scoring matrix that this scores out at 347 points, and the projected target that you'd like to hit when considering a project is 100 points or better. So this obviously scores very well. And those points are based on the type of project, number of jobs, the wages on those jobs, the value of the proposed building, which in this case is going to be just under $2.8 million. The estimated new annual payroll will be just under $250,000, and the estimated annual real estate tax will be $28,475 for an estimated property value exemption of $27,757 per year, and that being $289,000 per job. No, it doesn't. So the recommendation from the group is to approve this, and I believe you need to also set a date for a public hearing. Since this is property tax exemption, there will need to be a
Brian,
notice of public
regarding
hearing.
a public hearing that Mark has just talked about, can we do two motions, approval, or two motions or one motion?
Well,
One for the public hearing, one to, or do we have to have the public hearing before we okay?
Yes, you do. All you're asking today is to set the public hearing so that you can hear the proposal.
Can you understand that? Because I just did not.
I would move that we set the public hearing for December 3rd. Do we have a time? It says after the regularly scheduled meeting, but I can be during it.
Can be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that's an independent board that has to meet, so we'd have to recess our county board meeting if we're going to do that, and then convene as the authority board, because we're considered two separate boards for that purpose.
And both have to meet then?
Well, I mean, we can't have both meetings going on at the same time.
No, I understand that.
You could start the regular meeting at 8:30, we could recess at, say, 9 o'clock for the EDA, and then we could come
Come
back.
back.
Is that all right?
Sure. Yeah.
Just the December date, is that all right with you?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. I'll run the motion by us again. I'll set the motion is to set the public hearing, 9 o'clock, December 3rd. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 3rd, I would think.
All right, we'll see you then.
So-
Appreciate your time.
Great project.
I have a clarification question for Brian. So it's after we hold the hearing, then that's when we get into what level of abatement the county is willing to negotiate, right?
Right, yeah. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Campbell, according to our flow chart, that's how we felt would happen. We would listen to their presentation as to what they're requesting, any comments from the public, and then we also thought that the EDA committee would also meet prior to that next board meeting and offer a recommendation to the board as to how it should all come together, what Holly has done, and just look at the total package so that the board has a clear signal for that.
So for the EDA committee to meet and to potentially make a recommendation, that group would need to have all the details of their request.
That's correct.
Formal request. I know. I've heard in a previous meeting some of the things you'd like, but I think we'd want to make that a formal request then for the process, right?
Yes.
So that we're talking about the same thing through our committee and then what the authority would do.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you on the 3rd.
Thanks, Mark.
Lori, did you have anything? Okay. Brian, could we have your update, please?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and just for a little further clarification on that, the Business Subsidy Committee that has been put together, and I believe Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Wayland are on that committee, we thought that that would be the appropriate time after the public hearing has convened, and any comments from the public, or any concerns that the public may have. We may hear from some other parties from Holly that are looking at other issues and things. So we just, that should move along fairly smoothly, I think, and it really stays in sync with that flow chart that we put together. It's really gone through the steps, and I think speaks to the process that we put together, which is great. Commissioner Gross already reported a little on the Dilworth meeting with Dilworth. There's really not a whole lot more to report on that. Things move along there. I think we're making progress so that they get a clear signal one way or the other. Nancy referred to some of the property that we'd gone out and inspected one of the properties that is on the tax forfeited sale. That was kind of interesting. Sometimes you don't know which direction to go on those things, whether you clean them up somewhat or which can involve quite a bit of dollars. So we've made a little progress on the DMV building. We had planned for that to be a winter project, and we were moving kind of slow with the architects. We met with them just last week. I think we're on schedule to get that thing advertised for bids very soon, and then we'll be bringing it to the board for hopefully final review and moving forward with the winter project. We told them that the absolute deadline that we wanted was April 1st, to be completed by April 1st, if that is approved, to go ahead. So I think even though there's been a lag here and I was getting a little bit discouraged, I think we're on a good time schedule to get it done. Contractors just weren't available before this, and we knew that bids would be high if we didn't wait till a winter project.
So are we looking at some potential work starting December then? Or? Yes,
we are. I was going to say right after Thanksgiving, but we have to get it advertised now. So yes, December would be it. We figure 2 to 3 month project. So we had a very good meeting with Lakes and Prairies to discuss everything from security to phone service to coordination of it. I think it really went well, and hopefully you'll get a good report on that, John, at your next meeting. I think there's a better understanding of what's the expected of entities right now. We also had a meeting with the city assessor's office to talk about coordination of flow of information. They're going through some changes there, and it was just good to have a meeting as to what the expectations were on either party. So I think we have a good line of communication there with them. We did have the joint powers meeting on Thursday morning, and the guest speaker was Dr. Bob Zimmerman. He's a city engineer, but he's very learned in this diversion, working heavily with the DNR in regards to our EIS study, and things are moving along pretty well there. I think a lot of folks are starting to realize that this project is going to happen. I think everybody knows that the Senate approved it, the project here last year, and the House approved a WARDA bill which includes this project. Now they have to get together on a couple topics, but Bob discussed some of the reaches, and reaches is a segment of the diversion that is being planned. Some of them are further ahead. Some of the concerns of some of the major, when you cross one river or you cross over a river with this channel, it's a complicated affair, and plus all of the different bridge works and road works and things. It's really a massive project, but it's they're looking at construction to start in Oxbow next spring, and it's really kind of it's coming together. It's coming together. Not to say that there's a lot of barriers ahead, but it's pretty exciting. So we had an administrative diversion meeting. I kind of touched on everything there. We had a management team meeting, I guess, going through forward with some projects there that we'll bring to the board if all falls in place. And one is that roster. You've heard quite a bit of discussion about the roster program and to the variable work hours because of the new health care program and some different things like that. So we're tightening up issues on that. And I think with that, that's about my report, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, seeing as though you're talking about the diversion, I happened to see in this morning's paper that the diversion authority was granted to be part of the lawsuit.
Oh, they were.
By the judge, and you know, for the public who's listening, you know, and some question why would anybody want a petition to be part of a lawsuit? You know, because right away you're thinking that there's a potential of loss of dollars involved when you're in something like that, but this is basically to help defend the position as to why the current project that was chosen. And it really doesn't have anything to do with another party suing us for dollars, because it's more about, the lawsuit is more about, you should have looked at other options. And so you know, that's the difference, and why we wanted to, on behalf of the metro area, why we wanted to partake in that, to make sure that our case was well represented. So,
Anything else from anybody on the board? Vicki?
I'd just like to point out that not everybody is excited about the project. So.
Oh, yeah, well, Mr. Chair, and I think
If you
that's a
lose your
very
home,
good...
it's not very fun. So
Yeah, I think that's a very
livelihood.
good point. Commissioner Everett's put in a difficult spot, but very open-minded about it, and I think staying engaged, though, is so important, so that these people get a fair shake, and that their opinions are represented in this, and I think that's what Commissioner Everett has tried to assure all the way along the line, and you know, sometimes you try to oppose something and you end up lose all the way around, but if you understand the need and you try to work for a positive solution for everybody, they're not excited about it, but it's the best you can do sometimes, I think. So
We are adjourned.